People who have tried to meet someone from the internet IRL. What happened? I met one of my best friends in an AOL chat room 18 years ago. I chatted with her nightly for about a year. Lost contact for 2. Then bumped into her IRL and have been friends ever since. We were also recently roommates for a year and a half. She is basically a sister to me. How did you know it was her when you bumped into her? We had exchanged photos. I kinda have 2 examples here. Met a guy online through a pen pal website. I love writing letters. I live in Australia and he lived in California. We decided to try a long distance relationship and after 6 months he came to stay with me for 3 weeks. He never left and we've been together nearly 9 years. Married for 2. During the wedding planning process I was an avid gamer. I met someone to play games with that was going to teach me to play better since I wasn't very good. Got talking and found out that the guy and his wife were wedding photographers and we had just had ours cancelled because he double booked himself. They flew down and did our wedding photography for us. All in all, had pretty good experiences I would say. Met a girl on a Harry Potter forum when I was 15 years old. I'm from Canada and she is from France. When I turned 17, flew to France to spend 3 weeks at her place and she then flew back to Canada with me for 3 weeks. 10 years later and we are still really good friend. Met again in Ireland 2 years ago. First person I met from the internet. We started a private game server together. Fun times. Fell out of touch. Second person I met from the internet hooked me up with a job in it. Got me started in the industry. And has been my career mentor ever since. He played on our private server. Back in 2008. My 3 Call of Duty buddies from a few states away and I would play every day after school. After randomly adding each other. They all 3 knew each other IRL. Friend number 1's dad passed away suddenly and I sent him and his mom a sympathy card. They were both really moved by the gesture and I was invited there over the summer. As of today, number 1 and I have met up 3 times. And number 2 and number 3 4 times. We continue to game and text at least once or twice a week. Now that we've all grown up, I consider them closer friends than a lot of the people I'm friends with here at home. We have been married for 1/2 years. Together for 21. Met in an AOL chat room. I came here to say this. We've been together for 21 years this month thanks to a random I'm on AOL. Wow. This is crazy. I've also met my husband through a random I'm on AOL. Been together 17 years and married 12. Also the reason why I moved to the UK. Not met many people with the same story. Probably not what you are looking for but this was kind of wild. I posted in a thread looking for vocalists in my area to sing on some songs I've been working on. Someone responded to look up someone via Instagram. I looked her up and she's good. Really good. Turns out she's been recording at a studio just down the street from my house. I let a little while pass without messaging her because I wasn't quite ready to send anything out yet. Cut to my band show last weekend at this dive bar on the other side of town. Get off the stage and she's in the crowd actually approached us and complimented us. Took me a minute before I made the connection. Sent her the songs yesterday and she liked them. I met one of my best friends over Instagram when I was 12ish. We both had pretty popular photography type pages. And we started talking through DM. Many FaceTime calls and conversations later. We met in person with our moms when we were 14. The next year I flew out to California to stay with their family and go to Disneyland with them. Then the next year I flew out to their home and spent over 2 weeks with them. Met my wife on an online forum when I was 16 and she was 15. Dates for 3 years, broke up for a while, got back together and have been married for almost 7 years now. Her mom still thinks we met at a summer camp I never went to. Haha. Good old making up a place where you met. Nice to see you got back together again after breaking up. Did either of you see anyone else in that time? Yes. She had a long-term relationship and a few hookups after that ended. I lived out in Downward Spiral album. Had a mohawk and a lot of piercings. And couldn't find anyone that was as amazing as her. After I joined the military we got back together. Edit, it was actually her mother that drove us apart. She is from an affluent household. I'm from a pretty messed up one. I wasn't good enough for her daughter. Fun fact though. I'm more successful than her two brothers that are both older than me. Does Craigslist count? Because I got a lot of roommates off Craigslist over the years. Became very good friends with a few of them. One of them had this ex-boyfriend she wouldn't stop complaining about. All day every day. Her stories about him were so outlandish and she was so embittered. It made me insanely curious about what his side of the story was. Given that I lived with her and knew that she could be a handful. I wound up meeting him randomly a few years later, not online, and paid extra close attention because I knew who he was from all of her endless complaining. I was like, huh, he's really cute. And he seems smart. And funny. And not at all like a human garbage monster. And then we fell in love and had a baby. Blah blah blah. I sometimes wonder if it would have happened if I'd never met this random bitter ex-girlfriend after posting a roommate ad on Craigslist. I probably wouldn't have paid nearly as much attention to him if I hadn't been hearing terrible stories about him for literally years. FWIW. We are still together and I really must attribute her stories to the fact that everyone is a less than ideal partner when they are like 17 years old. We long distance dated several years. Then got married for 5 or 6 years. Then divorced. Now I'm remarried and we each have our own kids. My husband likes my ex-husband and we all played in together often. My ex is a trusted friend and like family to me. I have met 2 of my best friends, women, on the internet as well. I always like to hear about ex-couples that actually stay friends. There are too many stories of crash and burn relationships out there. Which is why I like that my roommate's ex-boyfriend still regularly visits and we all can hang out. Even her current boyfriend likes him. To be fair though the ex-boyfriend, is Leek the nicest dude and really hard to dislike. I was friends with a girl who I met as just a random friend request during the MySpace days. She lived about 6 hours away. And after months of always chatting whether it be online or over the phone, I visited her. I like to think we had a good time. I mean we just hung out. Watched movies. Whatever. I don't know what happened. But suddenly afterwards she didn't seem all that interested in being close friends afterwards. And would give short responses. Never initiating conversations like she used to. It sucked. I feel like she was one of the few people who got me but really I guess I just wasn't anyone meaningful to her. I'm marrying him in September. Yay, that's awesome. Thanks. We met on Tinder 3 years ago. We met on Reddit about 2.5 years ago. After 4 months, I flew across the country to see him. We are currently watching Netflix together while we work on a puzzle. Guy that had exchanged messages with from a Cupid found me on Facebook. I was a bit weirded out but accepted his friend request and noticed his last name didn't match with all his other family members, not a common last name. I googled his name and nothing came up. Then I googled his first name with the last name that most of his family members had and boom. Registered 6 offender had been out for less than a year after serving 12 years for rape 2. Sodomy 2. And a couple other charges. I told him what I found. Said thanks but no thanks. I deleted a Cupid and never went on a dating site again. I met a girl from Tumblr at a meetup I organized. This was back in 2010 when Tumblr wasn't quite so crazy. We got married a couple years later and have a kid together. With one more on the way. Explaining how we met now is awkward. Since Tumblr became the cesspool that it is today. What was Tumblr like? Back before the war? Basically just an image posting site like a mix of Instagram and Imgur. I met a guy online, not romantic sort of met, and he was passing through my college town's area one day. We met. Played Smash Bros in the dorm commons. And then he left. I have no idea what happened to him. Met a Ukrainian girl on a language app back in 2017. Skyped with her every day for a year. Bought a ticket to Kiev, capital of Ukraine. It didn't work out. Such is life sometimes. I joined a couple small gaming forums in 2002. I befriended lots of people on each. And found myself wanting to meet everyone. Some people thought the idea creepy. But it was purely out of friendship on my side. So in 2008 I saved up about $1,500 and went on a 3-week, 8,000-mile road trip to meet anyone who was interested in having me visit them. I met over 20 people on that trip. Every visit was awesome in its own way. It's a lot cheaper than you might think it is if you're willing to sleep in your car or if people you visit let you stay the night. One of the women I met on that trip married me 6 years later. Been together ever since. I've also had one friend from that group live with me for a couple years. Before the road trip actually. And I've met several others under other circumstances. Meet people from the internet. It's great. Trust me. I can literally say it changed my life. And for the better. My daughter met a friend online. They both had popular fanfiction things. They became friends helping each other write various stories. He comes out at least twice a year and stays a week or so. He lives in PA and we live in CA. Basically all my friends are from online gaming. All over the world and we have met. With few exceptions. One in particular stands out. Was being flamed at in an MMO battleground. This one other player supported me and backed me up against the crowd. Twice in a row. It made me curious so I PM'd them after the second game and they were actually on the same server as me. First I thought they were being a bit overly weird. Then I thought they were also gay. Until I figured out it was a girl I was talking to. That explained their way of writing and what they were writing. Which threw me off since I had been assuming I'm talking to a male. 5 months later we met in her country. Now we've been a couple for over 3 years. Engaged for 1 and travel the planet together. Edit. Awkward wording that led believe I'm gay or bi. Which I'm not. They ask me a lot of questions. I mean a lot. We met several more times. Then they hired me because that's how job interviews work. Wait. So you just ended up giving all your personal info like social security number, job, address, etc to someone you met online? Just because they said they'd give you some money? Sounds shady. A guy who lived 2 states away friend requested me on MySpace. We never really chatted or connected. Fast forward 12 or so years and I'm in the state this guy lives in at a wine bar enjoying an acoustic set. The musician looks super familiar, it's the guy from MySpace. It's a small bar and so he casually says between songs, "You look very familiar. Have we met?" And before thinking, I blurt out sort of. It was a long time ago but it's not the type of story you'd want me to tell in front of everyone at the bar. Immediately he turned beet red. The bar went quiet. And everyone was staring and looking at him and I realized immediately after I said it what my comment must have sounded like. Edit guys, it wasn't that interesting. Sorry to disappoint. We chatted later privately about being MySpace friends back in the day. Everyone in that bar definitely got the impression we hooked up as there were many snickers in my direction throughout the evening. At the time, announcing we met on MySpace across the bar seemed embarrassing. Became friends for the next 15 plus years, and counting. Now we send each other gifts for the kids. That's very sweet. Met a friend from LiveJournal. Years later. He got me an awesome job and weird estimates. We stared at each other and ate ice cream. The forced conversation was so uncomfortable that silence couldn't even be shared properly. I had my friend call me and act like my dad to leave early. She was awesome in the DMs but lacked social skills entirely in person. Yeah. That's why I've been shying away from meeting online friends. I need those few seconds afforded by text chat to formulate my replies and thoughts. Met up with some Japanese girl I met on a language exchange app. Married her. Wow. Went on vacation with 100 people from online. Married one of them. Been to most of their houses. We've known each other for almost 30 years. I'm friends with their kids and watching them have kids.